Assalamu alaikum. Today's lecture is about the assessment of the eye. The eye is a specialized sense organ that helps us to understand our environment. It is a sensory unit which is composed of three parts. These are receptors, sensory pathways, and a brain center. First of all, we will review the anatomy of the eye. So first comes eyelids. These are the outer structure that protect the eyeball and lubricate the ocular surface. Within each eyelid there is a tarsal plate containing meibomian glands. The lid comes together at the medial and lateral canthi. The space between the two open lids is called palpebral fissure. Sclera is the thick outer coat of the eye, normally white and opaque. Limbus is the junction between the cornea and the sclera. As the picture is showing the outer structures of the eye, these are eyelids, lateral and medial canthus, sclera, limbus. Iris is the colored part of the eye that screens out the light primarily via the pigment epithelium, which lines its posterior surface. Pupil is the circular opening in the center of the iris that adjusts the amount of the light entering the eye. Its size is determined by the parasympathetic and sympathetic innervation of the iris. Conjunctiva is a thin vascular structure covering the inner aspect of the eyelids. This conjunctiva is known as palpebral conjunctiva, and the part which is covering the sclera is known as bulbar conjunctiva. Cornea is the transparent front window of the eye that serves as the major refractive surface. The diagram is showing the inner structures of the eye. Extraocular muscles, and there are 6 muscles that moves the globe. Medially, medial rectus muscles, laterally, lateral rectus muscles, upward superior rectus and inferior oblique muscles. Downward movement is done by inferior rectus and superior oblique muscle. Torsionally, there are superior and inferior oblique muscles. These muscles are supplied by 3 cranial nerves. These are cranial nerve 4, which innervates the superior oblique, cranial nerve 6, which innervates the lateral rectus, and cranial nerve 3, which controls the remainder of the extraocular muscle, as well as the levator and the iris sphincter. There is a mnemonic to remember innervation of these extraocular muscles. This is LR6SO43. This is a simple mnemonic representing the innervation of the extraocular muscle. LR6 stands for lateral rectus muscles, which is supplied by the 6th cranial nerve. SO4 stands for superior oblique muscle, which is supplied by the 4th cranial nerve, and the rest of the eye muscles is innervated or supplied by the cranial nerve 3. The diagram is showing the structure of the extraocular muscles. Anterior chamber, the space that lies between the cornea anteriorly and the iris posteriorly. The chamber contains a watery fluid called aqueous humor. Lens is the transparent biconvex body suspended by the zonules behind the pupil and iris, and makes the part of the reflecting mechanism of the eye. Ciliary body is the structure that produces aqueous humor. Contraction of the ciliary muscles changes tension on the zonular fiber that suspends the lens and allows the eye to focus from distant to near objects. This phenomena is known as accommodation. Posterior chamber is a small space filled with aqueous humor behind the iris and in front of the vitreous. Vitreous cavity is the relatively larger space behind the lens that extends to the retina. The cavity is filled with a transparent jelly-like material. This is known as vitreous humor. Retina is the neural tissue lining the vitreous cavity posteriorly, essentially transparent except for the blood vessels on its inner surface. The retina sends the initial visual signals to the brain via the optic nerve and thus help in optic recognition. Macula is the area of the retina at the posterior pole of the eye, which is responsible for fine central vision. The oval depression in the center of the macula is called the fovea. Choroid is the vascular pigmented tissue layer between the sclera and the retina. The choroid provides the blood supply for the outer retinal layers. Optic disc is the portion of the optic nerves which is visible within the eye. It is comprised of axons whose cell bodies are located in the ganglion cell layer of the retina. So assessment begins with the history, and ophthalmic history is no different than any medical history. Symptoms such as transient and persistent vision loss, blurring, flashing lights, diplopia, tearing, redness, visual distortion, field loss should be defined in the terms of its onset, course, character, exacerbating or ameliorating factors, any treatment, and associated symptoms. The sudden recent onset of an eye symptom such as visual loss, periorbital swelling, or severe eye pain. A history of past eye problem and other medical problems should be elicited or examined after the present symptoms are defined. Eye exam comprises inspection, visual acuity, visual field tests, extraocular muscle functioning test, and ophthalmic exam. So inspection involves general appearance. Conjunctiva should be pink, moist, and without lesions. Conjunctiva over the sclera should be transparent. Lacrimal glands should be palpated and looked for excessive tearing and discharge. And sclera should be usually white. Even yellowing indicates jaundice. Iris is a colored part, and pupils should be round, regular, equal in size, that is the normal size 3 to 5 millimeter. Now we will assess the pupillary light reflex in the inspection. This is done by darkening the room and asking the client to focus on the distant object. The client maintains a fixation on an object 15 feet or more away. Then the examiner will shine the light from the side for 3 to 5 seconds. This will result in the direct light reflex in one eye and the consensual light reflex in the other eye. On the second comes accommodation and convergence test. It is done by asking the client to focus on a distant object, then holding finger about 2 inches from the person's or client's eye, and asking the client shift focus to the finger as it moves closer to his or her nose. This test result in accommodation. In accommodation, pupils constrict, and in convergence, eyes move inward. These tests should be documented in the form of PERLA, which is pupils are equal, round, and reactive to light and accommodation. As the picture is showing the test for accommodation and convergence. Now comes testing visual acuity. Visual acuity is a measurement of the smallest object a person can identify at a given distance from the eye. Visual acuity is tested most often at a distance of 20 feet or 6 meters. Distance visual acuity is assessed via Snellen chart. The client may wear the glasses if he wears, and distance visual acuity is usually recorded as a ratio or fraction comparing patient performance with an agreed upon standard. The diagram is showing the Snellen chart. On the right or B part is the Snellen chart for illiterate people, and on the A side or A part is the Snellen chart for literate people. In this notation, the first number represents the distance between the patient and the eye chart, usually the Snellen eye chart. The second number represents the distance at which the letter can be read by a person with a normal acuity. The first letter is known as numerator and the second letter is known as denominator. As we will say that visual acuity of 20 by 80 indicates that the person or patient can recognize at 20 feet a symbol that can be recognized a person with normal acuity at 80 feet. Numerator stands for distance a person stood from the chart, and denominator distance normal eye can read the lines of the letter. Visual acuity is assessed by comparing both the numerator and denominator. Normal distant visual acuity is 20 by 20 in feet, and normal near visual acuity is 14 by 14 in inches. Nearsightedness, large denominator or represent poorer the vision, and for example 20 by 100 is equal to person to be as close as 20 to read what normal vision person can read at 100. This is a normal comparison of visual acuity. Assessing near visual acuity, Near visual acuity testing may be performed if the patient has a complaint about near vision. Otherwise, testing at a near is performed only if the distance testing is difficult or impossible at the patient's bedside, for instance. And in such situations, testing with a near card may be the only feasible way to determine visual acuity. If the patient normally wears glasses for reading, he should wear them during testing. The patient holds the test card, for example, a Rosenbaum pocket vision screener, at the distance specified on the card. This distance is usually 14 inches or 35 centimeter in a standard. While the examiner occludes one of the patient's eye, the patient read the smallest character legible on the card. The test is then repeated for the other eye. This is all about the initial examination of the eye. Thank you.